Hello there, and a very warm welcome to you. Whether you're joining us in the quiet hours of the morning, the stillness of the afternoon, or as you settle in for the night, I'm so glad you're here. I often wonder where and at what time you might be watching from, and I'd be truly happy to know. So please feel free to leave a comment and share a little piece of your world with us. Tonight, we set aside the grime of the earth and the chaos of the city. We are leaving the ground behind. Our journey takes us high above the clouds into the vast, silent sea of the sky to explore the quiet, rhythmic, and often lonely life of a skyship sailor. Let us begin. The day does not begin with the cheerful chirping of birds or the distant rumble of a cart on a cobbled street. Here, in the high, thin air, there are no birds, and there are no streets. The day begins not with a sound from outside, but with a feeling from within. You awaken slowly, drifting up from the depths of a dreamless sleep into a state of quiet awareness. And the first thing you notice is the hum. It is not a sound you hear with your ears, not at first. It is a vibration you feel in your bones, a low, resonant thrumming that seems to originate from the very soul of the world around you. It is a constant, unwavering presence, a note that has been held since the moment you stepped aboard and will continue long after you leave. You feel it in the small of your back, where it presses against the tight canvas of your hammock. You feel it in your teeth. This is the sound, the feeling, the very essence of the great Aetherium lift crystal, secured deep within the ship's core. It is the vessel's heart, and its steady, rhythmic pulse is the only reason this great vessel of wood and brass and canvas does not simply surrender to gravity and plummet into the sea of clouds below. The hum is your constant companion, your lullaby at night, and your alarm clock in the morning. It is the sound of magic made mundane, the sound of a miracle so persistent it has become ordinary. You are cocooned in your hammock, a narrow, suspended sliver of personal space in the tight, cramped confines of the crew quarters. The room is a marvel of efficient design, which is a polite way of saying there is absolutely no wasted space. Hammocks are strung up in stacks of 3, a multi-layered sandwich of sleeping sailors. To your left and right, the curved wooden ribs of the ship's hull are your walls, so close you can reach out and touch them without fully extending your arm. The air here is cool, almost cold, and it carries a unique and unchanging perfume. It is a complex blend of scents. The sharp, clean smell of lemon oil used to polish the ship's wooden timbers, the faint, metallic tang of brass polish, and underneath it all, the slightly stale, recycled scent of air that has been breathed by the same dozen sailors for weeks on end. It's not an unpleasant smell. It is simply the smell of home. The process of waking is a slow and gentle one. There is no jarring bell, no bellowing bosun. The only alarm is the soft, rhythmic creak of the hammock chains above you, as the sailor in the top bunk, a man named Finn, who always wakes first, begins to stir. You feel his weight shift, and your own hammock sways in response, a gentle, pendulous motion. It is the ship's way of giving you a gentle nudge, a quiet suggestion that the day is ready to begin when you are. You lie there for a few moments longer, suspended between the worlds of sleep and wakefulness. You feel the slow, almost imperceptible sway of the ship itself. It is a motion unlike that of a seafaring vessel, which pitches and rolls with a nauseating violence. The skyship glides. It breathes. You feel it rise and fall by a matter of inches as it rides the invisible high-altitude currents, the great, slow-moving rivers of the sky. It is a feeling of constant, gentle motion, a reminder that you are not on solid ground. You are a resident of the air, a citizen of the endless blue. Waking up here is not about leaving the comfort of a bed. It is about rejoining the life of the ship. It is about syncing your own small rhythm to its larger, more profound one. The hum of the crystal is the bass note. The gentle sway of the ship is the tempo. And the creaking of the timbers and the shuffling of your fellow crewmen are the melody. You are just one small instrument in this floating orchestra. With a soft groan, you finally decide to join the ensemble. You swing your legs over the side of the hammock, your feet finding the cold wooden floorboards. The space is so tight that you must coordinate your movements with the sailor in the hammock across from you. It's a carefully choreographed morning ballet of putting on your trousers without kicking your neighbor in the head. You pull on your clothes, the thick, heavy wool a welcome shield against the persistent chill. You are now awake. You are now a part of the day. The hum continues its steady, resonant song, a quiet promise of another day spent walking on the sky. And as you step out of the cramped, familiar warmth of the crew quarters, you are ready to see what that day holds.
You leave the relative warmth of your canvas cocoon and make your way through the narrow, dimly lit companionway. The wooden walls are cool to the touch, and the familiar hum of the lift crystal seems a little stronger here, a constant reminder of the powerful magic that keeps you afloat. You climb a steep, narrow ladder, your hands finding the worn, familiar rungs in the darkness. As you ascend, the air changes. The stale, recycled air of the sleeping quarters gives way to something thinner, colder, and cleaner. You push open the heavy wooden hatch, and you emerge onto the main deck. The change is immediate and profound. The pre-dawn chill hits you like a physical thing, a clean, sharp cold that cuts through your thin sleeping shirt and raises goosebumps on your arms. This is not the damp, heavy cold of a morning on the ground. This is the thin, dry, piercing cold of the upper atmosphere. It is the cold of the void, and it feels ancient and vast. You quickly pull on your uniform, a set of clothes designed not for style, but for survival. The wool trousers are thick and coarse, itchy but incredibly warm. The heavy tunic is layered, trapping what little body heat you can generate. And finally, the boots. They are your most important piece of equipment. The soles are made of a thick, tacky, vulcanized rubber that provides an essential grip on the often slick decking. To lose your footing up here is a far more serious proposition than on the ground. You are now dressed for the day. You stand for a moment, letting your eyes adjust. The world you have stepped into is a world of breathtaking, monochrome beauty. It is still dark, but the sky above is not black. It is a deep, profound, impossible indigo, a color that seems to hold all the secrets of the universe. And scattered across this deep blue canvas are the stars. They do not twinkle as they do when viewed from the ground. Here, Above the thickest layers of the atmosphere, they are sharp, brilliant, unwavering points of white-hot light. They look close enough to touch. The constellations are unfamiliar from this angle, shifted and distorted, and the great shimmering river of the galaxy is a thick, luminous band, so bright it casts its own faint, ghostly light upon the deck. And below you is the sea of clouds. As far as the eye can see in every direction, there is a solid, roiling, unbroken blanket of gray and silver clouds. It is a false floor to your world, a great, soft, moving landscape that hides the solid earth thousands of feet below. It moves with a slow, majestic grace, its surface constantly shifting, creating soft, rolling hills and deep, shadowy valleys. You are on an island, a small wooden raft of a world, floating on a silent, ethereal ocean. The wind up here is a living thing. It does not gust or howl, it whispers. It is a thin, constant, sighing presence, a river of air that flows around the ship. It carries a unique, clean scent, a smell you can only find at this altitude. It is the smell of ozone, of cold stone, and of a faint, almost imperceptible metallic tang that you know to be the scent of raw aether. It is the smell of the sky itself. Your first duty of the day is simple, repetitive, and deeply meditative. It is the ritual of the morning check. You begin to walk the perimeter of the deck, your thick rubber soles making soft, grippy sounds on the wooden planks. The wood is coated in a thin layer of frost, which glitters faintly in the starlight. You walk with a slow, deliberate pace, your body already accustomed to the gentle, constant sway of the ship. Your task is to check the tension of the skysail rigging. The great sails are currently furled, but the complex web of ropes that controls them must be inspected daily. You wear thick leather gloves to protect your hands from the cold and the coarse fibers of the rope. You approach the first tether point, a large brass cleat bolted securely to the deck rail. You place your gloved hands on the rope. It is as thick as your wrist, cold and rigid with frost. You pull on it, testing its tension, feeling for the familiar, solid resistance that tells you everything is as it should be. You run your hands along its length, your fingertips searching for any signs of wear, any fraying strands or weak spots that could spell disaster in a high wind. The work is methodical, quiet, and done in near silence. You move from one tether point to the next, a slow, circling patrol around the edge of your world. Left hand on the cold brass railing for balance, right hand feeling the lifeblood of the ship. Thump, thump, thump go your boots on the deck. Squeak, squeak, squeak goes your gloved hand along the rope. These are the only sounds you make, a small human rhythm against the vast, silent backdrop of the pre-dawn sky. This ritual is more than just a safety check. It is a way of connecting with the ship, of refamiliarizing yourself with its form and function after the disconnection of sleep. It is a way of saying good morning to the vessel that keeps you alive. It is a moving meditation, a way to focus your mind and prepare yourself for the day ahead. You do not think about the complex duties to come. You do not think about the past or the future. You think only of the rope in your hand. You think of its texture, its tension, its temperature. You are entirely present in this single, simple, repetitive task. As you complete your circuit of the deck, you notice a subtle change in the eastern sky. The deep indigo is beginning to soften, to bleed into a lighter, paler shade of blue at the very edge of the world. A thin, luminous line of pale gold appears on the horizon of the cloud sea. The sun is coming. Your first duty is complete. You have communed with the ship, and you have found her to be in good health. Now your next task awaits. Another quiet battle in the constant war to keep this vessel flying. You head towards the locker where the cleaning supplies are kept, your mind already shifting to the next ritual. The day has begun in earnest, not with a bang, but with a quiet, frosty, methodical inspection at the top of the world.
With the rigging inspected and the first hints of dawn painting the eastern clouds, you move on to your next assignment, a task as relentless and as necessary as the rising of the sun itself. It is time to fight the tarnish. You retrieve your polishing kit from a small utilitarian locker near the mainmast. The kit is simple, a round, dented tin of polish, and a small stack of soft, well-worn cotton cloths. The polish is a thick, greasy, grayish paste, and when you pry open the lid of the tin, it releases a sharp, acrid, vaguely chemical smell that stings your nostrils. It is a foul-smelling substance, but it is the ship's most essential cosmetic, its only defense against the creeping, corrosive beauty of the sky. The enemy is the etheric tarnish. Every piece of exposed brass on the ship, and there are hundreds, is engaged in a constant losing battle with the very air that holds it aloft. The raw, unfiltered aether of the upper atmosphere has a peculiar effect on certain metals. It does not cause a simple earthy rust. Instead, it creates a unique and strangely beautiful patina, a faint, powdery blue-green tarnish that seems to glow with its own inner light. It looks like a dusting of crushed turquoise, and on a new, unseasoned ship, it can be quite beautiful. But you are not a tourist. You are a sailor, and you know that this beautiful blue-green dust is a slow, insidious poison. The etheric tarnish does more than just dull the shine of the brass. It eats away at the metal itself, making it brittle and weak over time. A stanchion that is allowed to remain tarnished for too long might snap in a high wind. The delicate gears of the ship's chronometer might seize up. The mouth of a speaking tube might corrode and crumble. To polish the brass is not a matter of vanity. It is a matter of structural integrity. It is a constant, quiet, never-ending battle against the entropy of the sky. Your target for the morning is the Great Binnacle, the ornate brass housing that protects the ship's primary compass. It is a magnificent piece of craftsmanship, a domed structure of sweeping curves and intricate engravings. And at this moment, it is covered in a fine layer of the telltale blue-green dust, its usual warm golden gleam almost completely obscured. You dip your cloth into the tin of foul-smelling polish, scooping up a generous dollop of the gray paste. You then apply it to the surface of the brass. The process is slow and requires a firm, steady, circular motion. You press the cloth against the metal and begin to rub. At first, you feel a slight gritty resistance as the cloth works against the powdery tarnish. You must apply a consistent, even pressure, your shoulder and back muscles joining in the effort. The only sounds are the rhythmic, hypnotic squeak of your cloth against the metal and the soft, ever-present whisper of the high-altitude wind. You are not trying to clean the entire binnacle at once. That would be an overwhelming and inefficient task. Instead, you focus on a single small section, an area no larger than the palm of your hand. You lose yourself in the motion, the small, tight circles of your hand becoming a form of physical mantra. Squeak, rub, squeak, rub. You watch as the gray paste of the polish begins to darken, turning a muddy black as it lifts the blue-green tarnish from the surface of the brass. Slowly, painstakingly, a small patch of the metal's true nature begins to emerge. It starts as a faint, dull gleam, a hint of the warm gold that lies beneath the corrosive patina. You redouble your efforts, your circles becoming tighter and faster. The gritty feeling beneath your cloth begins to lessen, replaced by a smooth, satisfying glide. And then, finally, the transformation is complete. The small patch you have been working on is now a pristine, gleaming circle of brilliant sun-like gold. It reflects the newly risen sun, casting a small, dazzling spot of light onto the deck. It is a tiny, hard-won victory against the encroaching decay. There is a deep, quiet satisfaction in this work. It is a simple, tangible task with a clear and immediate result. You are taking something dull and corrupted, and through your own effort, you are making it clean and whole again. You are restoring order. You are, in your own small way, pushing back against the forces of chaos and decay that govern the universe. It is a deeply meditative process. Your mind, which might otherwise be wandering or worrying, is entirely focused on the small circle of brass in front of you. You are not thinking about your next meal, or the cold, or the dangers of the sky. You are thinking only of the pressure of your hand, the feel of the cloth, the transformation of the metal. You are living entirely in this single, repetitive, productive moment. You finish one small section and move on to the next, and the next, and the next. The work is slow. It will take you the better part of 2 hours to polish the entire binnacle. And you know that by the time you finish your work on the last piece of brass on the ship, the first piece you polished will already be starting to show the faint telltale signs of the tarnish once more. It is a job that is never truly finished. It is a battle that can never be truly won. You can only fight it to a temporary stalemate, a brief, shining moment of victory before the inevitable return of the enemy. But that is the nature of life on a skyship. It is a life of constant maintenance, of quiet, unending vigilance. You are a resident of an unnatural environment, a trespasser in the hostile beauty of the upper atmosphere. Your very survival depends on these small, repetitive, and deeply meaningful rituals. And so you polish. You rub and squeak and sweat in the thin, cold morning air, your small, determined efforts a quiet testament to the resilience of life in the vast, corrosive indifference of the sky. You are not just a sailor, you are a warrior, and your weapon is a soft cloth and a tin of foul-smelling polish. And for now, you are winning. With the ship's binnacle gleaming like a small personal sun on the deck, a new, and far more primal urge begins to make itself known: hunger. The morning's work, performed in the thin, cold air, has stoked the furnace of your metabolism, and the familiar, hollow ache in your stomach has returned. It is time for breakfast. You make your way from the open, windswept deck to a small, unassuming hatch near the ship's stern. As you descend the ladder into the belly of the vessel, the world changes once more. The clean, cold, metallic scent of the upper atmosphere is replaced by something warm, steamy, and deeply, wonderfully comforting. You have entered the galley. The ship's galley is a small, cramped, and perpetually warm haven, a tiny island of coziness in the vast, cold sea of the sky. It is a space designed with an almost comical degree of efficiency, where every square inch serves a purpose. The ceiling is low, hung with a collection of dented copper pots and pans that jangle softly with the sway of the ship. The walls are lined with small, well-organized cupboards and bins containing the ship's precious supply of dry goods. And dominating the entire space is the stove. It is a small, cast-iron, wood-fired beast, its black surface radiating a dry, welcome heat that makes the small room feel like a baker's oven. The stovepipe, which vents the smoke out through a clever, baffled chimney on the deck, is the galley's only connection to the outside world. The air in here is thick and steamy, filled with the comforting, life-affirming smells of wood smoke, baking flour, and the rich, earthy aroma of brewing tea. It is a scent that speaks of warmth, of sustenance, of life. It is, perhaps, the single best smell in the entire world. Presiding over this small, warm kingdom is the ship's cook. He is a gnarled old man named Silas, with a face as wrinkled as a dried apple and hands that are permanently dusted with a fine layer of flour. He moves about his tiny domain with a slow, practiced, and deeply efficient grace, his movements economical and precise. He is a man of few words, but he is the unspoken heart of the crew's morale. A good cook can make the hardest voyage bearable, and Silas is a very good cook. Not because his food is fancy, but because it is reliable, it is warm, and it is always, always on time. You join the short, informal queue of your fellow sailors. There is no rigid structure here, no hierarchy of taste as there might be in a goblin burrow. On a skyship, everyone, from the captain down to the newest cabin boy, eats the same simple, functional food. Silas acknowledges you with a slight, almost imperceptible nod. He turns to a large bin filled with what looks like oversized, pale brown circular tiles. He takes one of these and places it on a small wooden plate. He then uses a small scoop to add a handful of dried fruit, a chewy, wrinkled mixture of apricots and plums to the side of the plate. Finally, he turns to the large, perpetually simmering kettle on the stove and fills a thick, heavy ceramic mug with a dark, steaming liquid. He hands you the plate and the mug, and your breakfast is served. The meal is not a feast. It is not designed for pleasure or indulgence. It is designed for one purpose and one purpose only: sustenance. The main component of the meal is the thick, hard biscuit known as skytack. It is a simple, unleavened bread made from flour, water, and salt, baked until it is almost completely devoid of moisture. It is incredibly dense, incredibly hard, and incredibly durable. It will not spoil for months, perhaps even years, making it the perfect food for long voyages. To an uninitiated palate, biting into a piece of skytack might feel like trying to take a bite out of a piece of wood. But you are no stranger to it. You know the secret. The only way to eat skytack is to dunk it. You break off a corner of the hard biscuit and submerge it in your mug of hot tea. The tea itself is a weak, smoky brew made from the dried leaves of a hardy mountain shrub. It is not a delicate or flavorful beverage. Its primary purpose is to be hot and wet, a solvent for the otherwise inedible skytack. You let the biscuit soak for a few moments, watching as it slowly absorbs the dark liquid, its hard, unyielding surface softening just enough to be chewed. You take a bite. The texture is still dense and chewy, but the hot tea has softened it to a manageable consistency. The flavor is simple: the plain, wheaty taste of the biscuit, the faint saltiness, and the smoky, slightly bitter flavor of the tea. It is not delicious, but it is deeply satisfying. The small portion of dried fruit provides a welcome burst of sweetness and a chewy texture that contrasts with the dense tack. It is a small, simple luxury, a reminder of the sweet, sun-drenched world far below. There are no tables or chairs in the galley. You find an empty space to lean against a bulkhead, your plate balanced in one hand, your mug in the other. You eat in a comfortable, companionable silence, surrounded by your fellow crewmen. The conversation is minimal, consisting of low murmurs, tired grunts of satisfaction, and the rhythmic crunching and slurping sounds of a dozen hungry men eating their breakfast. It is a shared, communal experience, but it is also an intensely personal one. Each sailor is lost in their own thoughts, their own private world. You are not discussing the day's duties or gossiping about the captain. You are simply eating. You are focused on the simple, mechanical act of refueling your body for the long day ahead. This quiet, shared ritual is a cornerstone of life on the ship. It is a moment of peace, a temporary truce in the constant battle against the elements. For these few precious minutes, you are not a rigger or a polisher or a lookout. You are just a man, standing in a warm room, eating a simple meal. It is a moment of profound, unassuming grace. You finish your meal, scraping the last few crumbs from your plate and drinking the last few drops of the smoky tea. You hand your empty plate and mug back to Silas, who takes them without a word and begins to wash them in a small basin of hot water. You feel the warmth of the food spreading through your belly, a solid, comforting presence that banishes the last of the morning's chill. You are now fueled. You are now ready. With a final, grateful nod to Silas, you leave the warm, steamy, comforting haven of the galley and ascend once more to the cold, bright, windswept world. Your next task awaits, a delicate and dizzying dance among the clouds.
With the solid, comforting weight of breakfast settled in your stomach, you move on to the next and perhaps most defining task of a skyship sailor's day: tending the sails. You report to the base of the mainmast, where the first mate, a stern-faced woman with eyes the color of a stormy sky, is already overseeing the preparations. Your assignment today is a full inspection and mending of the mainsail, a job that requires a steady hand, a strong stomach, and an intimate relationship with heights. First, you must gather your tools. This is not the crude, heavy equipment of a ground-based laborer. Your toolkit is a small leather roll containing implements that would look more at home in a weaver's studio than on the deck of a great ship. It holds several large, curved needles made of polished bone, a small, sharp knife with a mother-of-pearl handle for cutting thread, and, most importantly, several spools of the precious skysail thread. This thread is a marvel of magical engineering. It is a silk harvested from a species of giant moth that feeds exclusively on the leaves of aether-infused trees. The silk is incredibly lightweight, unbelievably strong, and it is spun together with microfine strands of pure copper wire. It is this unique combination of organic silk and conductive copper that allows the sails to interact with the etheric winds, to catch the invisible currents of the sky and propel the ship forward. The thread is worth more than its weight in gold, and you treat each spool with a quiet reverence. Your vessel for the ascent is the bosun's chair. It is little more than a small, sturdy wooden plank attached to a system of ropes and pulleys. It is a simple, terrifying, and utterly reliable piece of equipment. You settle yourself onto the plank, securing a leather safety harness around your waist. With a nod to the 2 crewmen manning the winch, you begin your slow, steady ascent into the sky. The deck shrinks below you, the figures of your crewmates becoming smaller and smaller until they are just tiny moving dots. The only sounds are the rhythmic creak of the winch and the whisper of the wind, which grows stronger and more insistent the higher you climb. You are a spider climbing a thread of your own making into a vast, empty web. The view is dizzying, breathtaking, and something you will never truly get used to. The world expands around you into a perfect 360-degree panorama of blue sky and white clouds. You are suspended in the center of a great empty sphere. You can feel the sheer, terrifying immensity of the space around you, the thousands of feet of empty air between you and the cloud sea below. It is a perspective that can make a person feel profound and insignificant all at the same time. You reach the level of the furled mainsail. It is a massive, tightly packed cylinder of the copper-infused silk, held in place by a series of thick ropes. Your first task is to unfurl a section of it for inspection. You work with your partner, another sailor in a separate bosun's chair a few yards away. In a series of coordinated, practiced calls and pulls, you loosen the ropes, and a great shimmering sheet of the sail is released. It unfurls not with a loud snap, but with a soft, rustling hiss, the sound of 1,000 copper threads sighing in the wind. The sail is a thing of beauty. In the bright, unfiltered sunlight, it shimmers with an iridescent, pearlescent sheen. The fine copper threads woven into the silk catch the light, creating a faint, web-like pattern of metallic glints. It is a delicate, ethereal-looking fabric, but you know it is stronger than steel cable. Now the real work begins. Your job is to inspect this section of the sail for any damage. You let the wind push your chair so that you are almost pressing against the vast vertical wall of silk. Your eyes scan the surface, searching for any imperfection. You are looking for the smallest of tears, the slightest of rips, a single frayed copper wire. Even a tiny hole, if left untended, can be caught by the fierce etheric winds and torn into a catastrophic rent that could cripple the ship. It is slow, meticulous work. You move your eyes in a systematic grid pattern, ignoring the dizzying height and the vast emptiness around you. Your entire universe is reduced to the few square feet of shimmering fabric in front of your face. And then you find it. a small L-shaped tear, no longer than your thumb. It is almost invisible, a minor wound in the great skin of the sail. But it is a wound that must be treated. You signal to your partner, who works the pulleys to hold your chair steady against the gentle push of the wind. You open your leather tool roll and select a curved needle and a spool of the copper-infused thread. The process of mending is a delicate, precise, and deeply focused art. You thread the needle, your fingers surprisingly nimble despite the cold. Then you begin to stitch. This is not a crude patch job. You are not just closing the hole, you are reweaving the fabric. You use a complex interlocking stitch that mimics the original weave of the sail. Each pass of the needle must be perfect. The tension of the thread must be exact. Too tight and it will pucker the sail. Too loose and the mend will not hold. It is a weaver's work, a surgeon's work, performed while suspended hundreds of feet above a sea of clouds. As you work, you become lost in the process. The vastness of the sky disappears. The fear of falling fades away. There is only the needle, the thread, and the small, damaged section of the sail. You feel the smooth passage of the needle through the tough silk. You hear the faint, satisfying snick as you pull each stitch tight. You see the tear slowly, miraculously disappearing, the wound closing under your expert care, until it is almost impossible to tell that it was ever there. You finish the mend, running your gloved finger over the new stitches. They are smooth, tight, and strong. The sail is whole again. You have done your job. You signal to your partner, and you continue your inspection, moving slowly along the great shimmering expanse of the sail, searching for the next tiny imperfection, the next small battle to be won. This is the heart of your craft. It is not about brave, heroic deeds. It is about quiet, patient, meticulous care. It is about the understanding that a great and magnificent thing like a skyship is held together by 1,000 small, perfect details. And you are one of those details. You are a stitch in the fabric, a knot in the rope, a small, determined guardian against the slow, inevitable decay of the sky. And as you hang there, a tiny, solitary figure against the vast blue canvas of the heavens, you feel a quiet, profound sense of purpose. You are a mender. You are a weaver. You are a sailor of the sky.
After your dizzying work in the high rigging, your next duty takes you from the highest point of the ship to its very lowest, from the wide open expanse of the sky to the cramped, secret heart of the vessel. You descend a series of steep, narrow ladders, moving past the crew quarters, past the galley, down into the deep, warm belly of the ship. The familiar low-grade hum that permeates every timber grows stronger with each step you take, the vibration becoming more pronounced, a physical presence you can feel in your chest. You have arrived at the core chamber. The entrance is a single, heavy, circular door made of reinforced copper, its surface warm to the touch. You unlatch the heavy wheel lock and pull the door open, stepping from the cool, dark companionway into a world of warm, blue-violet light. This is not a loud, fiery, steam-belching engine room.
There is no clang of pistons, no hiss of steam, no smell of coal smoke or hot oil. The core chamber is a place of profound, almost reverent quiet. It is a perfectly circular room, its walls lined with polished copper plates that reflect the light, creating a feeling of being inside a great glowing sphere. The air is warm and dry, and it crackles with a faint static energy that makes the small hairs on your arms stand up. In the exact center of the chamber, suspended in a complex gyroscopic cage of gleaming brass and copper, is the Aetherium lift crystal. It is the heart of the ship, the source of all its power, the miracle that makes flight possible. It is a single, massive, flawless crystal, roughly the size of a man's torso, its many facets cut with a geometric precision that seems to defy nature. It does not shine with a harsh, bright light. It glows. It emits a soft, pulsating, deeply saturated blue-violet light, a color that seems to exist somewhere between a dream and a memory. The light waxes and wanes with a slow, steady, rhythmic pulse, like a great sleeping heart. And the hum here is no longer a subtle background vibration. It is a rich, resonant, audible chord, a sound that is both a low bass note and a high ethereal harmony all at once. It is the sound of pure, raw magic, contained and controlled. Your duty in this chamber is not to operate machinery or to shovel fuel. You are here to assist the ship's engineer, a woman named Ilara, who is more of a high priestess than a mechanic. She is the only person on board who truly understands the crystal, and her relationship with it is one of deep, intuitive communion. She sits on a small stool near the crystal, her eyes closed, her expression one of deep concentration. She does not acknowledge your entrance with a word, but you know she is aware of your presence. Your job here is not to touch the crystal. To do so without the proper training and attunement would be catastrophically dangerous. Your job is to listen. Ilara has been teaching you the art of listening to the hum, of discerning the subtle nuances in its constant, steady song. She has taught you that a healthy crystal hums with a pure, unwavering, multi-layered chord. But an imbalance, a fluctuation in the etheric flow, or a flaw developing deep within the crystal's lattice will manifest as a change in the sound. You take your position at a designated listening post, a small alcove set into the curved wall. You close your eyes, shutting out the mesmerizing blue-violet light, and you focus your entire being on the sound. You let the hum wash over you, through you. You try to separate its complex layers. There is the deep, resonant bass note, the foundation of the sound, which you feel more than you hear. There is the steady, mid-range chord, the main body of the song. And then there is the high, ethereal, almost silent harmony that seems to hover at the very edge of your hearing. Your task is to listen for any deviation from the norm. A slight waver in the bass note, a faint, discordant quaver in the mid-range, a sudden sharpening of the high harmony. These are the subtle, early warning signs of a potential problem. It is a deeply meditative and intensely focused task.
You must filter out all other sounds, the faint creak of the ship's timbers, the sound of your own breathing, the distant clatter of a pot in the galley above. Your entire world becomes this single, complex, beautiful sound. For the first hour, you simply listen, attuning your senses to the ship's heartbeat. The hum is steady, strong, and pure. The crystal is content. The ship is safe. After the listening period is over, your second task begins. This is a more physical, but no less important duty. The crystal's energy is drawn out and distributed throughout the ship via a complex web of thick, polished copper conduits that radiate from the central cage like the strands of a spider's web. Like the brass on the deck, these copper conduits are susceptible to etheric corrosion, a dark, sooty buildup that can impede the flow of energy. Your job is to polish them. You use a different kind of polish here, a fine, powdery substance, and a very soft, lint-free cloth. You start at the point where the conduit meets the outer wall, and you work your way inwards towards the central cage. The work is slow and meticulous. You cannot use broad, sweeping motions. You must use small, gentle, precise movements, carefully polishing the curved surface of the copper pipe. As you work, you can feel the raw power humming just beneath the surface of the metal. The conduit is warm to the touch, and the static charge in the air makes your fingers tingle. You must be careful, focused, and respectful. This is not just a pipe, it is an artery carrying the lifeblood of the ship. You work in a reverent silence, your movements slow and deliberate. Ilara remains on her stool, her eyes still closed, a silent, watchful guardian. The only sounds are the soft whisper of your cloth on the copper and the deep, steady, beautiful hum of the crystal. Here, in the warm, glowing heart of the ship, you feel a profound sense of connection to the vessel. You are not just a sailor performing a mundane task. You are a caretaker, a guardian, a small but essential part of the living system that keeps this magnificent machine flying. You are tending to the ship's very soul. And as you polish the copper to a brilliant rosy gleam, you feel as though you are contributing to the purity of the hum, adding your own small, quiet note to the ship's unending magical song.
Leaving the warm, vibrant, and spiritually charged atmosphere of the core chamber behind, you ascend once more into the more mundane regions of the ship. Your next duty is a stark reminder of the vessel's true purpose. For all its magical technology and breathtaking views, this is not a vessel of exploration or a warship. It is a merchant freighter, a flying warehouse, a beast of burden for the sky. And your next destination is its belly, the cargo hold. You unlatch another heavy wooden hatch and step into a vast, cavernous space that constitutes nearly half of the ship's interior volume. The cargo hold is a world away from the cramped, functional spaces you have occupied so far. It is a long, wide, and surprisingly tall chamber, the curved ribs of the ship's skeleton arching high overhead. The air in here is cool, still, and thick with a complex and evocative blend of smells. It is a library of scents,
a chronicle of distant lands and exotic goods. You can smell the faint, grassy aroma of raw bundled silk from the verdant lowlands. There is the sharp, pungent, and deeply pleasant scent of exotic spices, cinnamon, clove, and something else, something peppery and strange, from the sun-drenched Sunstone Archipelago. And underneath it all is the dry, dusty, almost mineral scent of the open sky itself, a smell that seems to permeate every corner of the ship. The hold is filled with hundreds of wooden crates, stacked with a geometric, almost obsessive precision. They are arranged in long, neat rows with narrow aisles in between, creating a kind of wooden labyrinth. The crates are all shapes and sizes, from small hand-carried boxes to massive reinforced containers that must have been winched aboard by a dockside crane. Each crate is held firmly in place by a web of thick, heavy ropes and leather harnesses, securing it to rings bolted into the floor and walls. This is essential, as even the gentle swaying motion of the skyship could cause an unsecured cargo to shift, potentially upsetting the delicate balance of the entire vessel. Your task for the next few hours is one of tedious, monotonous, and mind-numbingly important inventory. You are, for all intents and purposes, a floating accountant, a clerk of the clouds. Your tools are not a polished cloth or a weaver's needle, but a manifest board and a small piece of charcoal. The manifest board is a thin, flat piece of wood with a long sheet of parchment tacked to it. The parchment is covered in a neat, cramped script, a long list of crate numbers, contents, and destinations. Your job is to verify this list. You begin at the start of the first aisle, your footsteps echoing slightly in the vast, quiet space. The only light comes from a few small grime-covered portholes set high in the hull, which cast long, dusty shafts of sunlight into the gloom. You approach the first crate. It is a large, sturdy container made of dark, heavy wood. Stenciled on its side in black paint is a number, 7B. You scan the manifest until you find the corresponding entry, 7B. Contents: spiced plum wine, 50 bottles. Destination: the Spire City of Eridor. You run your hand over the leather harness that holds the crate in place. It is secure. You then make a small, neat check mark next to the entry on your manifest with your piece of charcoal. And you move on to the next crate, crate 7C. Contents: woven silk rugs, 12 count. Destination: Port Windfall. You check the harness. It is secure. You make your check mark, and you move on. This is the rhythm of your work for the foreseeable future. You move slowly, methodically through the labyrinth of wooden boxes, a quiet, dusty ghost in a silent warehouse. Your world is reduced to a series of numbers, names, and check marks. It is the least glamorous job on the ship. There is no breathtaking view, no magical hum, no quiet satisfaction of a beautiful repair. There is only the endless, repetitive cycle of read, check, mark. But you understand its importance. The cargo is the reason for this journey. It is the lifeblood of the company that owns this ship. A single lost or damaged crate could mean the difference between a profitable voyage and a disastrous one. The meticulous records you are keeping are essential for trade, for insurance, for the entire complex web of commerce that these skyships make possible. And so you find a kind of meditative peace in the monotony. You do not allow your mind to wander. You focus entirely on the task at hand. You let the rhythm of the work take over. The scratch of your charcoal on the parchment becomes a familiar, comforting sound. The feel of the different woods of the crates, the smooth, polished surface of a high-value container, the rough, splintery texture of a crate carrying raw materials becomes a point of interest. You are not just checking a list. You are communing with the purpose of your voyage. You are a guardian of commerce, a silent protector of the goods that connect the disparate parts of your world. You let your imagination drift just a little. You picture the spiced plum wine in crate 7B being enjoyed by a wealthy merchant in a high tower in the Spire City. You imagine the beautiful, intricately woven silk rugs from crate 7C adorning the floor of a guild hall in the bustling coastal city of Port Windfall. You realize that you are not just transporting boxes of stuff. You are transporting small pieces of culture, of luxury, of life. You are a vital link in a great, invisible chain that binds the world together. The thought is a small, quiet comfort. It elevates your tedious, boring task into something with a sense of greater purpose. It makes the dust taste a little less dry, the air feel a little less still. You continue your work, your small charcoal check marks a steady, quiet testament to your diligence. You are a floating accountant, a dusty chronicler, a silent guardian of the ship's true heart, which is not the magical crystal in its core, but the mundane, profitable, and profoundly important cargo in its hold. And as you complete another row, you feel a sense of quiet pride. The cargo is safe, the ship is balanced, the voyage is proceeding as it should, and you, in your own small, dusty, and inglorious way, are a crucial part of it all. After hours spent in the cool, dusty, and profoundly uneventful silence of the cargo hold, you emerge once more into the brilliant, almost shocking light of the open sky. The hatch opens to a world that seems impossibly bright, impossibly vast after the enclosed, shadowy labyrinth below. You blink, your eyes taking a moment to adjust to the sheer, unfiltered intensity of the midday sun. Up here, at this altitude, the sun is not a warm, friendly yellow orb. It is a sharp, brilliant, white-hot diamond, its light so pure and so intense that it seems to scour the world clean. The sky is no longer the gentle indigo of the pre-dawn, but a deep, dark, almost violet blue, the color of the deepest ocean. There is a crisp, hard edge to everything, a clarity of vision that is impossible to experience on the ground. And the silence up here is different from the silence of the cargo hold. Down below, it was the dead, muffled silence of an enclosed space. Up here, it is the vast, living silence of the void. A silence so profound that it seems to have its own sound, a high, thin, ringing note at the very edge of hearing. The bell for the midday meal has rung, a sharp, cheerful clang that cuts through the quiet air. The work of the morning is done, and it is time for a well-earned break and another simple, functional meal. You collect your ration from Silas, the ship's cook, who has brought the food up to the deck. The meal is, as always, designed for practicality over pleasure. Today, it consists of a few thin, tough slices of salted skyboar meat, another one of the infamous, jaw-breakingly hard pieces of skytack, and a single, small, slightly bruised apple. The salted meat is chewy and intensely flavorful, its saltiness a welcome and necessary thing in a job that makes you sweat, even in the cold. The apple is a rare treat, a burst of crisp, sweet, juicy freshness that feels like a message from the green, living world far below. You take your simple meal and find your favorite spot for the midday break. It is not a comfortable chair or a shaded table. It is a large, thick coil of rope near the ship's bow. You settle yourself onto the rough, fibrous coil, and you let your legs dangle over the side of the ship. Below your boots, there is nothing but 6,000 feet of empty, sun-drenched air, and then the soft, white, undulating sea of clouds. This is a moment of profound, quiet awe, a moment that never loses its power, no matter how many times you experience it. This is the reward for all the hard work, the polishing, the mending, the counting. This is the view from the edge of the world. You begin to eat your meal, slowly, deliberately, your gaze fixed on the impossible landscape around you. You dip your skytack into a small cup of water to soften it, just as you did at breakfast. You chew the tough, salty meat, your eyes scanning the vast white plain below. It is a world of impossible beauty. The tops of the clouds are a brilliant, dazzling white, sculpted by the high altitudes into fantastical shapes. Great soft mountains, deep shadowy canyons, and long feathery plains. And moving slowly, silently across this celestial landscape is the shadow of your ship. It is a perfect, dark, skyship-shaped silhouette, a ghost of your own vessel gliding over the clouds. It moves with a serene, dreamlike grace, a constant companion on your journey. It is a humbling sight, a reminder of how small and insignificant you are in this vast, empty expanse. A tiny speck of wood and brass and life, casting a fleeting shadow on a world of vapor. You are, you realize, living inside a map. You are the "here be dragons" part of the world, the blank, unexplored space that ground dwellers can only imagine. You eat your apple, the crisp, sweet juice, a shocking and wonderful sensation in this world of dry air and salted meat. As you chew, you scan the horizon. Far to the west, you can see it, the jagged, snow-covered peak of a great mountain, the only piece of solid land visible in any direction. It juts up through the cloud sea like a lonely, forgotten island, its granite cliffs and icy slopes a stark, beautiful contrast to the soft, ephemeral world of the clouds. You have a name for this mountain, the Great Fang. It is a landmark, a fixed point in your ever-moving world, and seeing it gives you a sense of place, a sense of direction. It is a reminder that the solid, dependable world of rock and soil does still exist somewhere far below this ocean of air. This midday break is a moment of profound contemplation. It is a time to simply sit, to eat, and to be. the sheer unbelievable reality of your existence settles upon you. You are a sailor on a ship that flies. You are eating a simple lunch with your feet dangling in the empty sky. You are watching your own shadow race across the clouds. It is a life that is both profoundly mundane and breathtakingly magical all at once. The constant, low-grade fear that is your ever-present companion seems to recede in these moments, replaced by a quiet, deep, and abiding sense of wonder. The hardships, the cold, the monotonous labor, they all seem like a small price to pay for this, for the silence, for the solitude, for the view. You finish your meal, the last sweet bite of the apple a lingering, pleasant memory on your tongue. The bell will ring again soon, calling you back to your duties. But for these few precious, sun-drenched minutes, you are not a worker. You are not a sailor. You are an observer, a witness to a beauty that few will ever see. You are a resident of the sky, a king in a kingdom of clouds, and this quiet, solitary lunch at the edge of the world is your coronation. And as you take one last look at the impossible view, you feel a sense of peace so profound, so complete, that it feels like a prayer. The peaceful, contemplative stillness of your midday meal is broken by the sharp, clear ring of a small brass bell, a sound distinct from the general call to duty. It is a summons. You have been called to assist the navigator. You make your way to the ship's highest point, climbing a final, narrow, spiraling staircase that leads to the glass-domed chart room. This is the brain of the ship, a hemispherical bubble of thick, curved glass set at the very top of the main mast, offering a complete, unobstructed 360-degree view of the sky. The room is small, circular, and filled with a quiet, scholarly atmosphere. The air here smells of old paper, of the faint, acidic tang of ink, and of the warm, metallic scent of polished brass. The space is dominated by a large, circular chart table made of a dark, heavy wood, its surface covered in a vast, sprawling celestial map. The walls are lined with shelves holding rolled-up paper charts, thick, leather-bound ephemeris books, and a host of strange and beautiful brass instruments. There are astrolabes with their intricate, interlocking rings, sextants with their polished mirrors and delicate vernier scales, and chronometers that tick with a quiet, steady, reassuring rhythm. Presiding over this domain of mathematics and mystery is the navigator, a woman named Lyra. She is a tall, slender woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and long, nimble fingers stained with ink. She is a figure of immense respect and quiet authority on the ship. While the captain commands the crew, it is the navigator who commands the ship itself, interpreting the secrets of the sky to guide the vessel along its invisible, high-altitude pathways. She greets you with a brief, focused nod, her attention already on the chart in front of her. Your duty here is not one of physical labor, but of precision and clarity. You are, for the next hour, her eyes and her hands, an extension of her own keen senses. Your task is to take the readings, to quantify the unseen forces that act upon the ship. Your first instrument is the solar sextant.
It is a beautiful, complex piece of brass craftsmanship, heavy and solid in your hands. Lyra has already taught you its use. You bring the sextant to your eye, peering through the small eyepiece, and you sight the sun. You adjust the knurled brass knobs, moving the mirrors until the brilliant white-hot disk of the sun appears to rest perfectly on the distant, cloudy horizon. You then read the angle from the finely etched arc of the instrument. 37 degrees, 4 minutes, you call out, your voice clear and steady, devoid of any uncertainty. Lyra, without looking up from her chart, makes a small, neat notation with a fine-nibbed pen. "Acknowledged," she murmurs, her voice a low, focused hum. Your next task is to measure the etheric density. You move to another instrument, an even stranger device known as an aether densiometer. It consists of a small, perfectly tuned crystal fork suspended in a glass vacuum tube, which is in turn connected to a series of coiled copper wires and a brass gauge. You gently tap the side of the glass tube with your knuckle. The crystal fork begins to vibrate, emitting a high, pure single note. The pitch of this note changes subtly depending on the density of the aether in the surrounding atmosphere. You listen intently, your ear trained to discern the minute variations in the sound. You then consult the gauge, a curved scale marked with a complex series of flowing esoteric symbols. "Aetheric density at 1.14, you announce. "Acknowledged," Lyra replies, her pen already moving, making another small, precise mark on the chart. You continue this process, moving from one instrument to the next. You check the ship's chronometer against the sun's position to verify your longitudinal progress. You use a delicate wind vane-like instrument to measure the direction and velocity of the high-altitude jet stream. You check the atmospheric pressure with a beautiful banjo-shaped barometer. Each time, you take the reading with as much precision as you can muster, and you call out the number in a clear, unwavering voice. You are charting the unseen. You are giving names and numbers to the invisible forces that govern your world. You are mapping the currents of a great, ethereal ocean. The work is intensely focused, almost ritualistic. It is a collaboration, a silent dance between you and the navigator. Your clear spoken numbers are the raw data, the sensory input. Her charts, her calculations, her profound understanding of celestial mechanics, that is the intelligence that transforms your data into knowledge, into a safe and efficient path through the heavens. You begin to understand, in a way you never have before, the sheer, mind-boggling complexity of skyship navigation. It is not as simple as pointing the ship in the right direction. It is a constant, ongoing conversation with the sky. You must account for the ship's drift on the aetheric currents. You must anticipate the powerful high-altitude jet streams that can either speed your journey or push you disastrously off course. You must constantly update your position based on the unblinking, indifferent stars. To be a skyship navigator is to be a mathematician, a meteorologist, an astronomer, and a magician all at once. And for this 1 hour, you are a small but essential part of that magic. You are the link between the beautiful, complex, unfeeling instruments and the brilliant, intuitive mind of the woman who can make sense of it all.
You are translating the silent, secret language of the sky into a form that a human mind can understand. As you call out the final reading from the barometer, Lyra puts down her pen and looks up, fixing you with her sharp, intelligent gaze for the first time. "Course is true," she says, her voice still quiet, but with a note of finality. "Thank you for your assistance. Your work here is done. You have helped to confirm that the ship is where it should be, heading in the direction it needs to go." You give a respectful nod, and you quietly exit the glass and brass bubble of the chart room, leaving the navigator to her silent communion with the stars. As you descend the spiral staircase, you feel a sense of quiet pride. You have not just polished a piece of brass or mended a sail. You have helped to chart the course. You have helped to make the invisible visible. And you have played your small part in the great, ongoing, and deeply magical task of navigating the silent, sun-drenched, and ever-shifting sea of the sky.
Your duties as the navigator's assistant are complete, but your time as an observer of the sky is not yet over. Your next assignment is one of the most crucial and most respected roles on the ship, the Weather Watch. You make your way to the crow's nest, though on a skyship it is not a nest at all. It is a small, protected observation platform that projects from the side of the main mast, high above the deck, offering an unparalleled view of the surrounding sky. The platform is small, barely large enough for 2 people, and it is enclosed by a high, reinforced brass railing to which you tether your safety harness. Your companion on the watch is an old, weather-beaten sailor named Jasper, a man whose face is a permanent squint from a lifetime of staring into the bright, unfiltered sun. He is a man of even fewer words than Silas the cook, but he is a living library of atmospheric knowledge. Your job here is not to look out for other ships or for pirates, though you would certainly report them if you saw them. Your job is to look at the clouds. To a ground dweller, a cloud is just a cloud, a fluffy, white, and largely insignificant bit of scenery. To a skyship sailor, the clouds are a language. They are a living, breathing text that tells a story of wind and pressure and temperature. To be able to read this language is the difference between a safe, uneventful voyage and a terrifying, potentially fatal encounter with the raw, untamed power of the sky. Jasper is your teacher. He does not give you long, formal lessons. He teaches by pointing, by grunting, and by asking short, sharp questions. He points a long, gnarled finger towards the far western horizon. "See that?" he grunts. You follow his gaze. At first, you see nothing but the deep, empty blue of the sky. But then you notice them. Thin, faint, almost transparent wisps of cloud, stretched out like fine strands of white hair. They are so high and so thin that they are almost invisible against the backdrop of the sky. "Mare's scales," Jasper says, his voice a low rumble. "High winds up there, strong ones, means the jet stream is shifting south. We'll have a good tailwind by morning, but a bumpy ride tonight." You nod, committing the image to memory. The thin, wispy, mare's tail clouds signal a change in the high-altitude jet stream. This is the first word in your new vocabulary. Later, Jasper points to a section of the great white cloud sea below you. "What's that look like to you?" he asks. You look down. Most of the cloud sea is a uniform, brilliant white, but the section he is pointing to has a strange, dark, almost bruised appearance. It is a deep, purplish gray, and it seems to be churning and boiling with a slow, internal energy. A storm, you reply, remembering your earlier lessons. An electrical storm, Jasper corrects you, with a note of approval in his voice. See how the top is flat like an anvil? That's the ether shear. The storm is building. It's moving east. It will miss us, but any ship 100 miles behind us is in for a nasty time. You watch the dark, bruised cloud for a long time, imagining the violent flashes of lightning and the deafening roar of thunder hidden within its silent, churning mass. You are grateful for the distance. An hour passes in this silent, observational classroom. Jasper points out a dozen different signs, a dozen different words in the language of the clouds. He shows you the small, puffy, cotton-like clouds that signal stable, calm air, a sign of smooth sailing ahead. He shows you the strange, lens-shaped clouds that often form over high mountain peaks, a warning of severe turbulence. He points out a faint, greenish tint in the belly of a distant cloud bank. Hail squall, he says, with a note of caution. Nasty stuff. The hailstones up here are as big as your fist and as hard as iron. We steer well clear of anything that looks green. You learn that the sky is not an empty, featureless void. It is a complex, dynamic, and often dangerous environment. It is a landscape of invisible mountains, of flowing rivers, of vast, silent, and incredibly powerful storms. And the clouds are the signposts, the warnings, the only visible manifestation of these unseen forces. Reading the weather is not just a science, it is an art. It is about recognizing patterns, about understanding subtle shifts in color and texture, about feeling a change in the pressure of the air on your skin. It is about a deep, intuitive connection with the world around you. You are not just looking at the sky. You are listening to it, feeling it, communing with it. It is a skill that takes a lifetime to master, and you are just a novice, a humble student at the feet of a master like Jasper. As your watch comes to an end, Jasper gives you a final, unexpected test. He points to a large, solitary cloud that is drifting towards the ship. Friend or foe? He asks. You study the cloud. It is large and white and puffy. It does not have the dark, bruised look of a thunderstorm. It does not have the greenish tint of a hail squall. It seems harmless, a gentle, floating island of vapor. Friend, you say, with a degree of confidence. Jasper lets out a short, sharp bark of a laugh. Look again, he says. You look closer, and then you see it. The edges of the cloud are not soft and wispy. They are sharp, almost crystalline, and there is a faint, almost imperceptible shimmering in the air around it. An ice cloud, you whisper, a knot of fear tightening in your stomach. Full of super-cooled water droplets, Jasper confirms, his voice now serious. Fly into that, and the whole ship will be coated in a layer of clear, heavy ice in a matter of seconds. The weight would bring us down before we even knew what was happening. Jasper raises a speaking tube to his mouth and blows a sharp, clear note. A moment later, a voice from the helm crackles back. Change course, Jasper says, his voice calm and authoritative. 10 degrees to starboard, ice cloud approaching. Acknowledged, the voice replies. You feel the ship begin a slow, graceful turn, banking away from the beautiful, deadly, crystalline cloud.
You have just played your small part in saving the ship from a potential disaster. You have learned a valuable and potentially life-saving new word in the silent, beautiful, and unforgiving language of the clouds. And as your watch ends and you prepare to descend from your high perch, you look out at the sky with a new sense of respect and a new, deeper understanding. The sky is not your enemy. It is not your friend. It simply is. And your job is to listen to what it has to say.
As the afternoon wanes and the deep, violet blue of the sky begins to soften at the edges, a tangible shift occurs in the atmosphere aboard the skyship. The structured, purposeful energy of the workday gives way to a more relaxed, communal feeling. The main duties are complete. The rigging is secure, the brass is gleaming, the cargo is accounted for, and the course is true. A quiet, collective sense of a day's work well done settles over the crew. The call for the evening meal feels less like a summons and more like an invitation. You make your way back down to the galley, and the familiar, comforting warmth and the smell of cooking food are even more welcome than they were at breakfast. The mood in the small, steamy haven is noticeably different. The tense, functional silence of the morning has been replaced by a low, companionable murmur of tired conversation. Voices are soft, laughter is quiet, but the air is filled with a sense of camaraderie that was absent during the focused, solitary labors of the day. Silas the cook, his face still a mask of floury concentration, presides over the great pot on the stove. Tonight's meal is not the Spartan fare of breakfast or the functional ration of midday. It is a thick, hearty, and wonderfully fragrant stew. The base is made from dried root vegetables that have been slowly simmered for hours until they are soft and tender. Chunks of the same salty skyboar meat you had for lunch have been added, their flavor mellowing and enriching the broth. And of course, there are the glimmercap mushrooms, adding their own unique, earthy flavor to the mix. The aroma is rich, complex, and deeply satisfying, a perfect reward for a long day's work. You are given a deep, heavy bowl filled to the brim with the hot, steaming stew. You take your meal, but instead of eating in the cramped confines of the galley, you and most of the other off-duty sailors head up to the main deck. The evening is clear and calm, and there is a tacit, unspoken agreement among the crew that on nights like this, the evening meal is best enjoyed with a view. You find your favorite spot, the same coil of rope near the bow where you ate your lunch. You settle in, your back against the main mast, your bowl of stew cradled in your lap, and you turn your gaze to the west, and you watch the show. A sunset, when viewed from the ground, is a beautiful but fleeting event. A sunset, when viewed from 6,000 feet above a sea of clouds, is not an event. It is a symphony. It is a slow, majestic, and breathtakingly beautiful performance that unfolds over the course of an hour. The sun, no longer the harsh white diamond of midday, has become a great, swollen golden orb. As it begins its slow descent towards the horizon of the cloud sea, the magic begins.
The light from the setting sun, now traveling through a much thicker band of atmosphere, begins to refract and scatter, painting the world in a palette of impossible dreamlike colors. The vast white plain of the clouds below you is the first to change. It is transformed from a simple landscape of white and gray into a canvas for the dying sun's art. The tops of the clouds are set ablaze with a brilliant, fiery orange. The deep, shadowy valleys between them are filled with a soft, deep, royal purple. The entire cloud sea looks like a great, rumpled blanket of crushed velvet and molten gold. You eat your stew slowly, your spoon moving from the bowl to your mouth in a slow, almost unconscious rhythm. Your senses are completely captivated by the unfolding spectacle. The stew is hot and savory, the vegetables are soft, the meat is tender, and it is, without a doubt, the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. But the taste is secondary to the sight. The sky itself begins to transform. The deep blue of the upper atmosphere bleeds downwards into a soft, delicate turquoise, which then gives way to a band of pale, rosy pink, and finally to the fiery, incandescent orange at the horizon. Thin, high-altitude clouds, the same mare's tails you observed earlier, catch the last rays of light and are set on fire, becoming brilliant, feathery strokes of magenta and crimson against the deepening blue. You watch your own ship's shadow, which now stretches for miles across the painted clouds, a long, dark, impossibly elongated silhouette. It is a silent, ghostly twin, a reminder of your own small, solid presence in this vast, ethereal world of light and color. There is a deep, profound peace in this moment. The hardships of the day, the aching muscles, the biting cold, the mind-numbing tedium, all of it melts away in the warm, golden light of the setting sun. The constant, low-grade fear that is your companion seems to dissolve, replaced by a feeling of immense, overwhelming gratitude. You are a simple sailor on a simple merchant ship, but you are a witness to a daily miracle of beauty that kings and emperors in their stone castles and gilded palaces can only dream of. The other sailors around you are equally entranced. The low murmur of conversation has died down. Everyone is silent, their faces bathed in the warm golden light, their eyes fixed on the western sky. It is a shared, communal moment of reverence. You are not just a crew, you are a congregation, and the setting sun is your cathedral. The sun finally touches the horizon of the clouds. It seems to hang there for a moment, a perfect liquid gold semicircle, before it begins to sink, slowly, gracefully, into the soft white ocean of vapor. As it disappears, it sends up a final, magnificent flare of light, a fan of golden rays that reaches high into the darkening sky. The sundown flare, the sailors call it. It is the sky's final, beautiful curtain call. And then it is over. The fire in the sky begins to cool. The brilliant oranges and pinks fade into softer, bruised purples and deep indigo. The first bright star appears in the eastern sky, a tiny, brilliant diamond pinned to a velvet curtain. The performance is finished. You look down at your now empty bowl. The stew is gone, but the warmth remains in your belly. The sun is gone, but the beauty remains in your memory. You feel a sense of peace so deep, so complete, that it feels like the end of a prayer. You have worked hard, you have done your duty, and you have been rewarded with a spectacle of such profound beauty that it has refilled your weary soul. As the last of the light fades and the deep, star-dusted darkness of the night begins to settle in, you know that you are ready for whatever comes next. As the last vestiges of the spectacular sunset fade from the sky, a deep, quiet, and star-dusted night settles over the skyship. The chill in the air returns, sharper now without the sun's warmth, driving the off-duty crew from the open deck back into the familiar, cramped confines of the sleeping quarters. The main work of the day is done. The evening meal has been eaten, but the call of sleep is still a few hours away. This is the quiet, interstitial time of the evening, a period of unstructured leisure, a rare and precious commodity in a life that is otherwise governed by the relentless rhythm of duty. There is no boisterous, drunken carousing here. The ship's ration of grog is small and strictly controlled, and the quiet, ever-present danger of life in the sky does not encourage recklessness. Instead, the crew settles into a variety of quiet, personal, and deeply focused hobbies, small acts of creation and distraction that help to pass the time and keep the ever-present sense of isolation at bay. You find your spot in the dimly lit quarters, your back against the curved wooden hull, and you retrieve your own evening's diversion from a small, personal locker. It is your scrimshaw kit. The art of scrimshaw is a tradition as old as skyfaring itself. It is the art of carving intricate designs onto the polished bones and teeth of the creatures that inhabit the upper atmosphere. Your current project is a large, flat, beautifully smooth piece of bone taken from the wing of a giant sky ray, a graceful, diamond-shaped creature that soars on the etheric currents. The bone has been painstakingly cleaned, bleached, and polished until its surface is as smooth and white as fine porcelain. Your tools are simple: a single, sharp, needle-like etching tool with a wooden handle, and a small pot of black ink made from ground charcoal and oil. The only light comes from a few small, smoky oil lamps that cast a warm, flickering yellow glow over the cramped quarters, creating an atmosphere of intimate, cozy quiet. You settle the piece of bone in your lap and begin to work. The design you are carving is a map of the stars as they appear from the northern latitudes, a complex and beautiful web of constellations and celestial pathways. You press the sharp tip of your etching tool into the smooth surface of the bone. It requires a steady hand and a precise, controlled pressure. You begin to scratch a fine, thin line into the surface, the tool making a faint, dry, whispering sound, like the skittering of a tiny insect. This is a slow, patient, and deeply meditative art form. You are not gouging or cutting the bone. You are merely scratching its surface, creating a network of almost invisible lines. Each line must be perfect. Each curve of a constellation must be exact. You become lost in the work. The cramped quarters, the quiet murmur of your crewmates, the gentle sway of the ship. It all fades into the background. Your entire universe is reduced to the small, white, and increasingly intricate landscape of the bone in your lap. The tip of your needle becomes an extension of your own will, a tiny, precise instrument that is transcribing the vast, infinite beauty of the night sky onto a small, finite piece of the physical world. After you have completed a section of the etching, the next step is to bring the design to life. You dip your finger into the pot of black ink and smear a thick, dark layer over the surface of the bone, rubbing it into the fine, shallow lines you have just carved. You let the ink sit for a moment, and then, with a clean, soft cloth, you wipe the excess away. The result is magical. The flat, polished surface of the bone is once again a pristine, creamy white, but the fine, scratch-like lines you have carved are now filled with the black ink, transforming them from almost invisible indentations into a sharp, clear, and beautiful black and white drawing. The constellation of the great worm, which you have just finished, now stands out in stark, beautiful contrast against the white of the bone. It is a small, perfect, and permanent record of the heavens. As you work, you become aware of another sound joining the quiet ambiance of the quarters. Someone has pulled out a sky flute. It is a small, simple instrument, carved from a hollow reed, with a mouthpiece at one end and a few finger holes along its length. It is played not by a master musician, but by a simple sailor, a man named Corin, who is usually quiet and reserved. But when he plays his flute, he speaks with a quiet, haunting eloquence. The melodies he plays are not the boisterous, rollicking, foot-stomping tunes of a seaside tavern. These are not sea shanties. These are sky shanties. They are slow, melancholic, and deeply beautiful tunes that seem to perfectly capture the unique feeling of life in the high, empty places. The music is filled with a sense of vast, open space, of long, lonely silences. The notes hang in the warm, lamplit air, each one a small, perfect, and slightly sad star in the quiet darkness. The melodies speak of the beauty of the celestial river, of the cold, indifferent light of the distant stars, and most of all, of a deep, abiding longing for the simple, solid, uncomplicated reality of the ground. It is a homesickness, not for a particular place, but for a whole element, for the feeling of grass under your feet and the smell of rain on soil. The other sailors in the room fall silent, their own quiet hobbies put on hold as they listen. The music seems to touch a deep, shared chord within all of them. It is the perfect soundtrack to their own quiet, lonely, and beautiful existence. It is the sound of their own hearts, given voice by a simple, reedy flute. You continue your scrimshaw, your own slow, scratching rhythm, finding a strange harmony with the slow, sad notes of Corin's flute. The combination of the focused, creative act of your hands and the beautiful, melancholic music creates a moment of profound, almost sacred peace. This is the heart of your community. It is not found in the shared labor of the day, but in these quiet, shared moments of the evening. It is found in the mutual respect for each other's quiet, personal space. It is found in the shared appreciation for a simple, beautiful, man-made thing, whether it is an intricate carving on a piece of bone or a sad, simple tune played on a hollow reed. These are the things that keep you sane. These are the things that make this hard, lonely life not just bearable, but in its own quiet, unassuming way, beautiful. And as Corin's flute plays its final, fading note, leaving a silence that feels deeper and more profound than before, you put the finishing touches on your own small work of art. The night sky is now permanently etched onto the bone, a small, perfect, and beautiful piece of the infinite that you can hold in your own two hands.
The quiet, creative peace of the evening eventually gives way to the inevitable, final duty of the day. A soft knock on the door of the crew quarters signals the changing of the watch. It is your turn. You carefully wrap your finished piece of scrimshaw in its cloth and store it in your locker. You pull on your heavy, insulated outer coat, preparing yourself for the deep, penetrating cold of the high-altitude night, and you make your way back up to the deck. The world you step into is utterly transformed. The familiar sun-drenched landscape of the day is gone, replaced by a darkness so profound, so complete, that it feels like a physical substance. The ship is a small, dimly lit island floating in a vast, silent, and star-dusted ocean of black. The only light on the deck comes from the ship's navigation lanterns, which cast a soft, warm greenish glow from the port side and a reddish glow from the starboard. These small pools of colored light do not illuminate the deck so much as they accentuate the overwhelming darkness that surrounds them. Your post is the crow's nest, the same observation platform where you watched the clouds earlier in the day. You climb the rigging in the near total darkness, your hands and feet finding the familiar ropes and holds out of pure muscle memory. You clip your safety harness to the railing and relieve the previous watchman with a quiet, whispered exchange of "all's well." And then you are alone. This is the night watch. It is a 2-hour vigil of profound and at times almost overwhelming solitude. The deck below you is silent and empty. Your crewmates are all asleep in their hammocks. The ship itself seems to be sleeping, the only sound the faint, almost inaudible hum of the crystal, and the soft, whisper-like sigh of the wind as it flows past the furled sails. You are the only conscious soul on this small, floating piece of the world, the ship's temporary, solitary guardian. You are completely, utterly, and absolutely alone. But as your eyes adjust to the darkness, you realize that you are not truly alone. You look up, and you are met with a sight of such staggering, incomprehensible beauty that it steals the breath from your lungs. The heavens. With no clouds above you, and with the thick, light-polluting blanket of the lower atmosphere thousands of feet below, the night sky is revealed in its true, unadulterated glory. It is not the familiar, friendly, star-sprinkled sky of the ground. It is a terrifying, brilliant, and overwhelming sea of stars. There are millions of them, billions of them. They are not faint, distant, twinkling points of light. They are sharp, brilliant, and intensely bright, each one a hard, cold, diamond-like spark. They are so numerous and so bright that they seem to be clustered together, a dense, shimmering field of celestial fire.
and cutting a great luminous swath through the center of it all is the galactic river. It is not a faint, milky smudge as it appears from the ground. It is a thick, roiling, and intensely bright river of light, a celestial torrent of dust and gas and a billion suns. It looks so close, so tangible, that you feel as though you could reach out and run your fingers through its shimmering, silvery waters. The sheer scale of it is humbling. It is a physical reminder of your own infinitesimal smallness in the grand cosmic scheme of things. You are a tiny, insignificant creature, clinging to a small piece of wood and brass, floating in an ocean of unimaginable size and age. Your life, your fears, your small daily struggles, they all seem utterly, laughably insignificant in the face of this silent, majestic, and utterly indifferent spectacle. And yet, there is a strange comfort in this feeling of smallness. It is a release from the burden of self-importance. It is a reminder that you are a part of something vast and ancient. You are a tiny, fleeting spark of consciousness in a universe of infinite silent fire. And you are privileged enough to be a witness to its glory. As you continue your lonely vigil, you become aware of another, even more magical phenomenon. You look down, over the railing, into the black abyss below, and you see a shooting star. But it is not a streak of light in the sky above you. It is a streak of light in the empty air below you. A small piece of cosmic dust, a tiny meteor, has entered the upper atmosphere and is burning up thousands of feet beneath your feet. It is a brief, silent, downward falling firework, a secret spectacle that only a skyship sailor can ever witness. You see another, and then another, a series of small, silent, and beautiful acts of celestial self-immolation. It feels like the universe is putting on a private show just for you. This 2-hour watch is a long, slow, and deeply meditative experience. You do not think, you do not worry, you simply observe. You watch the slow, majestic, and utterly predictable rotation of the heavens. You identify the familiar constellations, your old silent friends in the night sky. You watch the slow, graceful dance of the moons, if this world has them. You lose all sense of time. Minutes and hours become meaningless in the face of the vast cosmic clockwork above you. The only thing that matters is the slow, steady turning of the stars. It is a profoundly lonely experience. The silence is so deep that you can hear the sound of your own heartbeat, a small, fragile human rhythm against the vast, silent backdrop of the cosmos. You are a solitary watchman on a tiny, fragile island in an infinite, silent, and beautiful ocean. It is a loneliness so profound, so complete, that it paradoxically ceases to be lonely. You are not separate from the universe. You are a part of it. You are a small, quiet, and temporary point of awareness in the great, silent, and eternal mind of the night sky. And as you stand your post, a silent, solitary guardian of your sleeping ship, You feel a sense of peace that is deeper and more profound than any you have ever known. It is the peace of acceptance. It is the peace of knowing your true place in the universe. It is the peace of simply being. And it is a peace that will stay with you long after your watch is over. A quiet, starlit memory that will comfort you in the bright, chaotic, and demanding world of the day.
Your lonely, star-dusted vigil in the crow's nest comes to an end, and you are relieved by the next watchman. You descend from your high perch, your mind still filled with the silent, majestic grandeur of the cosmos. You make your way back to the quiet, dark, and blessedly warm sanctuary of the crew quarters. You slip into your hammock, the familiar canvas cocoon embracing your weary body. But sleep does not come immediately. In the quiet darkness, with the profound silence of the high-altitude night still ringing in your ears, your mind turns inward. And it is here, in this quiet, liminal space between wakefulness and sleep, that you confront the other, less beautiful, but equally constant companion of every skyship sailor, fear. The fear of a skyship sailor is a unique and subtle vintage. It is not the swashbuckling, adventurous fear of pirates, or the terrifying, monstrous fear of a great sky kraken rising from the clouds. Such things exist, of course, in stories and in the exaggerated tales of drunken sailors in portside taverns. But they are not the things that truly haunt you in the quiet hours of the night. Your fears are quieter, more mundane, and far more persistent. They are the whispering fears of the sky, the low-grade, constant anxieties that are born of a life lived in a fundamentally unnatural state. Your greatest and most profound fear is the fear of silence. It is the fear that one day the hum might stop. The constant, steady, reassuring thrum of the Ethereum lift crystal is the foundation of your entire world. It is the sound of safety, of stability, of defiance against the most fundamental law of the universe. The thought of that hum suddenly ceasing, of being replaced by a sudden, total, and terrifying silence, is a fear so deep, so primal, that you can barely bring yourself to contemplate it. A silent ship is a falling ship. A silent ship is a tomb. Every time you pass the core chamber, every time you feel that steady vibration in the soles of your feet, a small, unconscious part of you says a quiet, desperate prayer of thanks. Please, don't ever let it stop. Then there is the fear of the unseen. You have been taught to read the language of the clouds, to anticipate the fury of a thunderstorm or the danger of a hail squall. But you know that the sky is vast and its moods are fickle. You fear the storm that you don't see coming, the one that forms with an unnatural speed, the sudden, violent squall that can catch the ship unprepared, tearing at the sails and straining the timbers to their breaking point. You fear the clear air turbulence, the invisible, violent pockets of air that can drop a ship 100 feet in a single, gut-wrenching second. It is the fear of the unknown, the knowledge that for all your skill and all your instruments, you are still at the mercy of forces that are far greater and far less predictable than you are. There is also the fear of being lost. On the ground, to be lost is an inconvenience. On the sea, it is a danger. But in the sky, to be lost is to be erased.
The sky is a vast, featureless, three-dimensional desert. There are no coastlines, no islands, no landmarks, save for the highest mountain peaks and the unblinking, indifferent stars. You fear the catastrophic failure of your navigational instruments, the sudden, impenetrable fog bank that can blot out the sun and the stars for days on end. You fear the possibility of drifting, silently and helplessly, into the great, unexplored expanses of the sky, into the parts of the map that are marked only with the words, "Here be nothing." It is the fear of a slow, quiet, and lonely end, a death not by violence, but by simple, profound, and absolute isolation. And of course, there is the most basic, most primal, and most inescapable fear of all, the fear of falling. It is a fear that is written into the very DNA of your ground-dwelling species. It is a fear that you must actively suppress every single moment of your waking life. Every time you walk the deck, every time you climb the rigging, every time you dangle your legs over the side of the ship, a small, terrified, primitive part of your brain is screaming at you. It is screaming that this is not right, that you do not belong here, that there is nothing but 6,000 feet of empty, unforgiving air between you and a very, very hard landing. You learn to live with this fear. You learn to wall it off, to ignore the frantic, sweaty-palmed protest of your own instincts. But it is always there, a quiet, whispering voice in the back of your mind. It is there in the slight, unconscious tightening of your grip on the railing. It is there in the meticulous care with which you check your safety harness. It is there in the recurring, half-formed nightmare of a sudden, sickening, weightless lurch. These fears are not the loud, dramatic fears of a hero's tale. They are the quiet, mundane, and deeply personal fears of a professional. They are the fears of a bridge builder who worries about metal fatigue, of a farmer who worries about an unexpected frost. They are the fears that are born of a deep and intimate knowledge of the dangers of your chosen profession. You do not speak of these fears with your fellow crewmen. To do so would be a breach of an unspoken code. Everyone has these fears. Everyone lives with them. To give them voice would be to give them power. And so they remain, a silent, shared secret, a quiet, invisible bond that unites every soul on the ship. These fears do not make you weak. They make you careful. They make you diligent. They are the reason you check the rigging so meticulously, the reason you polish the brass so obsessively, the reason you listen to the hum with such focused intensity. Fear, in its own strange way, is what keeps you safe. It is the ghost in your machine, the unseen force that ensures that every task is performed with the respect and the seriousness it deserves. And as you lie in your hammock, feeling the gentle sway of the ship and the steady, reassuring hum of the crystal, you acknowledge these whispering fears. You let them wash over you, and then you let them go. You have done your duty. You have been careful. You have been vigilant. And for tonight, at least, the hum continues. The sky is calm, and the fear of falling is just a quiet, distant whisper. And with that small, hard-won peace, you finally surrender to the gentle, welcoming darkness of sleep. The quiet acknowledgement of your fears is the final act of your long and eventful day. With the whispered anxieties confronted and then gently set aside, your mind is finally, truly, and completely empty. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to think about, nothing left to fear.
there is only the profound, bone-deep, and deeply welcome state of utter exhaustion. You sink into your hammock, the familiar canvas nest that has become the most comforting and consistent place in your life. Your body is a single, unified chorus of aches and pains. Your back complains from the hours spent hunched over your polishing and your inventory. Your shoulders burn from the strain of hauling yourself up the rigging and the tension of your mending work. Your hands are raw from the coarse ropes and the abrasive polish. Your legs are weary from the countless steps you have taken, from the climbing, and from the simple, constant effort of maintaining your balance on a perpetually moving surface. But it is a good ache. It is not the sharp, alarming pain of an injury. It is the dull, satisfying, and deeply honest ache of a day's work well done. It is the physical proof of your own competence and diligence. It is the feeling of having earned your rest. You pull your thin woolen blanket up to your chin, and you surrender to the sensations of your small, safe world. You feel the gentle, rhythmic, and almost imperceptible sway of the ship as it glides through the silent, star-dusted night. It is a motion that is now as natural and as comforting to you as your own breathing, a gentle, eternal rocking that seems to be coaxing you towards sleep. And of course, there is the hum, the steady, unwavering, and deeply reassuring vibration of the Etherium crystal, the ship's great, magical, and ever-present heartbeat. It thrums through the wooden hull, through the canvas of your hammock, and into your own weary bones. It is the first thing you feel when you wake, and it is the last thing you feel as you drift off to sleep. It is the sound of your world, the sound of your safety, the sound of home. As your consciousness begins to soften and dissolve at the edges, your mind does not conjure up grand dreams of a different life. You do not fantasize about being the captain of your own ship, or a wealthy merchant living in a grand house, or a hero clad in shining armor. Such dreams are a form of poison, a self-inflicted wound that would make the simple, repetitive reality of your life unbearable. The key to contentment, you have learned, is not to dream of a different life, but to find the small, quiet moments of beauty and purpose in the life you have. Your life is not a story of ambition or of dramatic upward progression. It is a cycle. It is a simple, predictable, and, in its own way, beautiful loop. The waking to the hum, the pre-dawn chill, the polishing of the brass, the mending of the sails, the quiet satisfaction of a simple meal, the breathtaking glory of a sunset, the quiet camaraderie of the evening, and the lonely, majestic beauty of the night watch. This is the rhythm of your life, a rhythm that is as steady and as predictable as the rising and setting of the sun. There is a profound comfort in this predictability. In a world of vast, chaotic, and often dangerous uncertainties, the simple, unchanging structure of your day is a sanctuary. It is a framework upon which you can build a life of quiet dignity and purpose. Today, you did not fight a monstrous sky kraken. You did not discover a lost city of the ancients floating in the clouds. You did not unearth a great treasure or win a glorious battle. Your accomplishments were far smaller, far quieter, and far more essential. You inspected a rope and found it to be strong. You polished a piece of brass until it shone. You mended a tiny tear in a sail. You verified a number on a manifest. You observed the sky and helped to steer your ship away from a hidden danger. You did not perform a single heroic deed, but your small, collective, and diligently performed duties achieved something far more profound. You kept the ship flying. You and your crewmates, through your combined and often tedious efforts, have kept this magnificent, magical, and deeply fragile machine safe for one more day. You have maintained the delicate balance between the immense, indifferent forces of the sky and the stubborn, resilient ingenuity of your own kind. You did your job. You fulfilled your purpose. You played your small, essential part in the great, ongoing miracle of flight. And in the quiet, honest ledger of your own soul, that is a victory far greater than any treasure. And so, with this quiet, satisfying thought as your final companion, you let go. You release your hold on the waking world. You close your eyes. The last sensation you are aware of is the hum, the gentle, steady, and eternal vibration that is both the ship's heartbeat and your own. It is a lullaby, a promise, a physical manifestation of the magic that holds you aloft. And as you surrender to it completely, it rocks you, gently and inexorably, into a deep, dreamless, and profoundly peaceful sleep, high above the silent, dreaming, and earthbound world below. The cycle is complete, and it is ready to begin again.